Okay, Pōmarie, welcome to tonight's Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board meeting. We will kick off with our karakia tīmatanga. Tākina te marama ki a tātou. Tākina te aroha ki a tātou. Tākina te rangimarie ki a tātou. Ko pirongia me te kawa. Ko manga tautari, ko kakapoku nā maunga. Ko waikato, ko waipa nā awa. Tihe Mauri ora. And translated, that says, let the light be called forth to shine upon us. Let love be called forth to rest among us. May be called forth to dwell between us, our mountains, Pirongia and Te Kawa, Mangatautari and Kakapuku, our rivers, Waikato and Waipa. Behold the breath of life. Okay, so I don't believe we will have any apologies because everybody is here. So we will move on to item 2, which is the disclosure of members' interests. So is there anything in tonight's agenda that anyone has a conflict for? Nope. Okay, we move to item 3, which is the public forum. And we've got Councillor Dale Marie Morgan on standby. Oh, sorry, we've got a deputation. Sorry, clean forgot. Dale Marie, hold up just a smidgen. One more job to do. So we'll move to item 4, which is the confirmation of the previous minutes on pages 6 to 13. Now, the board had noted a couple of small typing errors that are going to be amended. So can I please have someone move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board confirms the minutes of the meeting held 24th of February 2026 as circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of proceedings subject to how do you say it? Topographical amendments. Jill, and someone to second that? Liam, thank you. Sorry about couldn't get my tongue around it tonight. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now we will go to our deputation and we have Councillor Dale Marie Morgan of the Māori Ward on standby to have a chat with us this evening. Welcome, Dale Marie. Lovely to have you here. Looks like you've been super busy as normal.
Kia ora tātou, can you hear me? Awesome. I hope you have the activity update sheet in front of you all. Just seeing if there's any questions to that.
Has anyone got any questions? I don't think I had, other than to say you've been very busy. Oh, and thank you back to Ngā iwi tōpū o Waipa. It's very nice to have them acknowledge that we've kept the karakia. So thank you for that. I don't think there was anything I thought of. Shane.
Dale Marie, you talked about a couple of members of the community called me about signage and storyboards. Can you just sort of elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I've had a couple of members in the community ask me around, does council have an account of any maintenance that we do with statues or other storyboards or other things that are history indicators that we have? Do we have a list? Do we have an account of that, is what I've been asked. So I thought I'd ask it here at the community level before I ask it at our councillor level.
Oh, okay, we've got Sally here and she's going to respond to that for us. So just let Sally jump in. Thanks, Sally.
Kia ora, Dale Marie. In terms of an overview of the memorials that we do have across the district, yes, the museum do have a list of that information, and They have a list of the information and have recently done information on signs and those sort of things as well. So we do hold that information, but there hasn't been any recent assessments, I suppose, of those memorial.
Sally.
Yeah. So kia ora.
I'll send those queries your guys' way.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just turned it off. Thanks, Sally. Appreciate that. Jill, did you have a question for Dale Marie?
No, I was going to say the same thing, but I knew that, what Sally had said. Yeah.
Has anyone else got any questions? No, all nice and clear. Thank you. Doesn't look like
Awesome.
we've got too many questions, so really appreciate the update. And yeah, keep up the good work.
Thanks, team. Have a good night, community board.
Thank you.
Ka kite.
Ka kite. Okay, so we now move on to item 6. No, we need to move, sorry, thank you, Debs. Can I have someone to move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board receives the verbal presentation from the Māori Board Councillor Dale Marie Morgan? Shane and second Dean, all in favour? Against? Carried. Now we move on to item 6 on pages 15 to 17, which is an update from Melissa Russo in regard to the 2027-37 long-term plan. We're going to hand over to Kirsty because, yep, okay, it's all yours.
Nice.
You most certainly may.
Kia ora koutou. So I'd like to request that the report be taken as read and just highlight that since we reported to you in February, the team have been working on the preparation of material for an elected member workshop, which is to be held this week on Thursday. The purpose of that workshop is really to have a conversation with elected members with a view to getting direction on strategic goals and priorities. There will also be part of that workshop will be focused on development of parameters around financial strategy, and then providing an update in terms of the project itself and with timeframes and acknowledging that we're just going through a reset of that project. So understand that, so for the workshop on Thursday, the chairs of the 2 community boards are invited to attend and to sit at the table with councillors and me and Mike, and understand from discussions and that you are available to attend. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, so have we got any questions at this point, Jill?
Thank you. Consultation to the community, what does that look like? Because over the years, they'll say, we didn't know about this and we didn't know about that, but will there be, I guess it's just the advertising of it and how many meetings we have and where they are, and has that been sort of thought of yet?
So just when you talk about advertising of meetings relating to the long-term plan, is that your query? Okay, so with regard to the, I guess the upcoming work programs, so we report through to the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee. We have developed a work program for that committee, and every time that committee meets, which is bi-monthly, we provide an update on that report. So that will set out key milestones for the long-term plan and meetings and workshop dates. We also provide reports through to the community board on the long-term plan, as well as our risk and assurance committee and strategic planning and policy committee meeting also. In terms of the proposed approach for community engagement and consultation, so we are working with our comms team to shape up a communications approach and plan. It is intended that there will be a phase of informal engagement prior to the formal process that we are required by legislation to follow. So anticipate an informal process with updates to the community this calendar year. In terms of the formal consultation process, that would likely commence through March and April of 2027 with adoption of the long-term plan by 30 June 2027.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty. Kane?
Yeah, last year we mentioned around scenario analysis regarding the LTP in terms of the financials. Obviously with inflation looking like it's going to increase and the situation we've got, is that included in the agenda at all? Scenario analysis around financials?
So the starting point for, I guess, the financial work stream is the work that we are kicking off this coming Thursday with the elected members around discussion on financial parameters, acknowledging the environment that we're operating within. It's incredibly complex in terms of central government reform, the impact on council of waters transferring to a CCO, central government reform and the impact of that in terms of the functions that council undertakes and the way in which we work, as well as now we've got global impacts. So yeah, as I said, I guess previously we've kind of been developing the financial strategy as we've gone. We acknowledge that we want to have a conversation with elected members at the outset as we to agree and get guidance around parameters, so that then that will help to shape the other component parts of the long-term plan. You're aware that with the 25-34 long-term plan, we were issued with an adverse opinion, and that was for a number of reasons, including the inclusion of waters, but also there was feedback around our growth assumptions. So yes, there is, I think it's fair to say, a focus on the delivery of the long-term plan, having regard to all of that, including the financials. Don't know whether I've answered you to your satisfaction, Kane.
Yes, so you talked around it a little bit, but I get what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is I think the board we're quite keen to see. Yeah, so I get the complexity around things, but if, for example, an increase in inflation. So if you're starting with less than 3%, I think there's talk of like 3.7 at the moment. So a situation where what if interest rates rise, or what if inflation goes up an extra 2%? I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the situation? No one knows, but that was one of the things we brought up last year. It seems to be more present this year.
So just in response to that, as part of the work that we do, the very early work, we develop forecasting assumptions. And so there are a number of elements to that, including things such as inflation, interest rates, a number of different factors. And that will be monitored throughout the development of the long-term plan. So tomorrow, as part of our finance and corporate meeting, we've got Earl White from Bancorp coming and speaking to elected members. We're also scheduling for Brad Olsen from Infometrics to come and speak with elected members. And there will be updates and monitoring and review of those forecasting assumptions to ensure that they are current and elected members are making decisions based on best available information. I should just probably further add that we are looking at how we engage with the community boards and also with mana whenua and iwi, so that inviting the chair to attend workshops, you're also able to view those and attend in person, view them online and in person where there are open workshops, but looking at opportunities to ensure that we strengthen the connection with the community board and the community as a whole. Yep.
Thanks, Kane. Thanks, Kirsty. Has anyone else got any other questions? Liam?
Just one, you mentioned before something about an adverse opinion. I wasn't involved last time around, so I just wondered what you meant by that. I didn't know what you meant by that.
So we're required to have have our long-term plan audited. So there's two parts to that. The consultation document, which is used as we go through a formal consultation process, and then the final long-term plan. Audit New Zealand were our auditor, and they issued an adverse opinion. And there were, I guess, the overwhelming driver for that was that we included in our long-term plan the provision of water services, because at the same time we were consulting with the community about the possible transfer of waters to a council-controlled organisation. So audit and council had differences of opinion in terms of how that should be treated. So that was the primary driver. But there were also, I guess, questions raised in relation to our growth assumptions and the approach taken in arriving at that, I guess, the levels that we had provided for in our long-term planning. If you want more information on that, we can make that information available to you. Yeah.
No, that's all right. I just wasn't sure who the adverse opinion was from, so thanks for clarifying.
Okay, if there's no further questions, can I please have someone to move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board accepts, oh no, I don't want that one, receives the report of Melissa Russo, Manager Strategy, titled 2027 Long-Term Plan, Overview and Community Board Engagement. Kane, second Liam, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, we move to item 7, which includes Appendix 1 and 2, and is on pages 18 to 22. This being the notice from Board Member Jill Taylor in regard to the heritage signs. So, Jill, we probably should, I mean, everybody's read your report, so we'll just kick off with some questions. I think to start with, if anyone's got some questions that Jill can answer, and then we'll go from there. So, questions in regard to the heritage sign motion?
Yeah, Jill, yeah, I'm in support of this. I guess my only question is that $2,000, I think we've talked offline, but does that include some breakage and some damage costs potentially? Do we? Yeah.
So that's the initial cost, and yes, if there is damage, which hopefully there isn't, the way it'll be installed, but if there is, then that's something that needs to be looked at. Yeah.
Yeah, just on that basis, then I wonder if we do need to potentially build some of that in, because we don't want to have to keep coming back to it all the time. I don't know how much there'll be, but I do think we need to keep a bit aside for that.
That's a good point. Anyone else got any questions? Shane?
So first, I just want to acknowledge Jill and for the good work done on this, and it's something that the community has been asking for a while. And I also want to thank Brad and Anne for supporting Jill to allow this to happen. So I support the proposal in principle. I'm the same as Kane in terms of a little bit worried about the detail in terms of the budget, and because I think the last thing we want to do is actually go over budget. So I just like to have a little bit more detail and a little bit closer look at that number, just to give us a little bit of comfort. Now the other thing is we're doing this because over time these signs have all gone missing, and I just want to understand what are we going to do in terms of keeping an eye on the signs and ensuring that they won't go missing, so that in 6 months' time we're talking about the same thing.
It's an interesting one that the Te Awamutu ones have gone missing, but the ones out at Kihikihi are fine, to the best of my knowledge. Gina, do you? I haven't heard anything about any of their new ones going walkabout. But
there are a couple that are missing out there that I think policy, but I don't.
yeah, I should have checked that actually.
Because Gina doesn't have a mic.
Oh, so Gina was just saying, to the best of her knowledge, that she thought they were mostly intact, but there may be a couple, but that definitely could be something that we double check to see if it's a current problem or whether it was a problem due to them starting to look pretty tired and hard to read, some of them. Sorry.
With meeting with
Yeah.
Brad and Anne, some of the signs have been missing for quite some time. Some of them were removed on purpose. For example, the Climax train, because it's not there anymore. So that was removed. The Presbyterian Church one was removed while they were building it, and their one needs to go up again, but it's not in a good condition. So some of them have been removed because of vandalism, and some of them they've been removed because they weren't in a good condition. So, and it was just a collection, I think, over the years that it is built to that. So the signs come to the amount, and then the installing shouldn't come to much at all. We've got people to put the signs up for nothing. Yes, there is the possibility that over time something could happen to a sign, and that's $30 that would have to be paid. So whether there is a small maintenance, I haven't talked to council staff whether we would do that or they would do that, because basically I guess they would belong to the council and its property. So that is one thing that hasn't been talked about at $30 a sign, but I would like to think the way the signs are being installed that they will be hard to be removed. Yeah. So that's probably the only thing, but if people want to move things, they can move things, but I'd like to think it wouldn't happen, but yeah, it happens all the time, I know, with lots of vandalism, so yeah.
Cool, thanks, Jill. Is there any other, John or Dean? Dean?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Jill. Yeah, I support this. Couple of comments that I want to make. Firstly, the Te Mutu Heritage Trail was a much older project than the Kihikihi community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Trail.
Yeah, they updated the Kiki one.
Yeah, so yeah, they haven't been looked at probably since last century.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, they haven't. Yeah, no.
So a lot of them, some of them were just on a single pole, and they got damaged. You know, they were easy to damage, and that probably explained that. As you say, some were removed on purpose, including the likes of the Te Mutu Courier, which had one as the old, you know, printing works and the original printing works, but it got taken down when we shifted, in fact, and obviously it's not appropriate probably to put it up again, and some of them just rotted because they were essentially just made of wood. So some of them just fell over on their own and then they weren't put back. So yeah. So yeah, I agree we should do this. It's a good price. It's probably sort of temporary in a way because there is a project to upgrade it all and tie it in with probably the concept of Te Arawai trails and other heritage signage that we've done. I would suggest that, and I presume this will happen with Brad and Anne, that we don't just do all the ones we had before because they're not all appropriate, and there might be some extra ones, and that the you know, the wording will need carefully looking at to be more appropriate. You know, 20 or 30 years on from the first time round. Otherwise, yeah, good work. Go for it.
Can I just add to that after talking to Brad and Anne, yes, they're working on the wording of the signs, designing, you know, the logo sort of thing for it. Also, Brad had suggested that to start with, we just do like the buildings in town, and then we, you know, so there'll be like, you know, 30, well, I think there's 20 just in town itself, and then move to the different areas. So
then are you asking for funding to just cover the buildings in town?
No, for the whole lot. But I'm just saying, Brad
I'm
said,
just being clarifying.
No, sorry.
And
the funding is for the whole lot. Yes, definitely. And I just wonder whether within our community board we set up a subcommittee to do it. Like I'm quite happy to do it with Anne and Brad. You know, they will work out the wording and the design, and the person would, Select Designs would design them and and John Wood has very kindly said he'll help put them up. The last thing he put up is very solid, and I don't think anyone's ever going to remove it on behalf of the community board. But a suggestion I've just thought in the last couple of days is maybe it's not just me and John, maybe one other person might like to work with us, because Brad suggested to each building in town, for example, that it goes to, that for me or someone to approach that building owner to make sure they're happy where it's going to be placed, and to talk to them about it to start with. So, there is a little bit involved, which I'm quite happy to do, but I think it would be nice if I did have some support from one or two other board members. Yeah.
Yep, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Liam, you had some stuff?
Yeah, I'd be happy to be involved as well.
Oh, thank you. Liam.
Yeah, thanks for preparing this. I'm also going to support it. Just had a couple of questions. Gina mentioned, I think, that there were a couple of signs missing, maybe in Kihikihi. I was wondering if this would cover that as well, if that's a possibility, if they are missing.
At this stage, it hasn't covered the Kihikihi ones, but we could look at that, or that could be a separate project. Yeah, so not.
I think we've got a better understanding of Te Awamutu. We've got this off the ground sort of wheels in motion. I wonder if we can come back to that one as a add-on down the line. That's just my gut feel with it. That's what I'm thinking, Liam. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tend to think we want to run it past the residents and ratepayers group, and because they'll have that knowledge, or actually Temple Cottage, because I believe it was a project that the Temple Cottage group did to replace the heritage signs, that they were quite actively involved with that. So we just possibly, out of respect, need to check in with them first. And
yeah, that's fine. I suppose I was just wondering if there was a need for replacement in Kihikihi, which I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
So
and if there was only a couple and they said yes please, then yeah, $60 we can probably chuck them in.
My second question, Shane mentioned about having some funds for repair or damage or replacement. And I just wondered, it sounds like the $800 is a bit of a buffer anyway, because installation isn't going to cost much. So I wondered if that already kind of built in a bit of a buffer for, replacement or damage. And I was going to ask about how you landed on the $800 figure for installation as well.
So $800 was just to round it up to the $2,000. And we may not need all that, so it can go back in, because it will be mainly just be bolts that are needed to go into buildings. But if you do have a pole, then sometimes you need some concrete as well. But I would say there could be some left over, or not until the project's complete that we can see how much there is. And if there is, say, 200 left over, we might be able to use that if something happens to a sign. But, in a few years, the council will be putting up their signs, but we still need to maintain. But as I say, at $30 a sign, it's not a huge amount.
So I just had a quick question in regard to how long are Anne and Brad giving as an indication, because like previously the comment had been that they were too busy to be doing, I know they're not doing the QR codes, but they were currently too busy to be writing all of the information that needed to go on the boards.
Yep. So Anne has told me if we agree to be doing that, it would be within a month that it's all complete. And then I would just get it to Slick Designs to print, and that would take 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. That's a big turnaround, but that's good.
I think that we're actually working on it.
Oh, okay. That makes a big difference. Oh, okay, cool.
Can I just say that Anne and Brad have been very supportive and really keen to help us, which is wonderful.
And then I just had one other question in regard to posts, because just from my knowledge of how many will need to go through the park and things, have you priced up any posts? Like we want them to be, like we don't want to just do real cheap, ugly posts. Obviously, we do need something possibly that's, because I just did a quick price and square dressed posts, which probably would be a nice sort of thing to do, are about $38 each, and then you'd need to concrete those in. So I just, want to make sure that if we're approving it, we are allowing enough. And yeah, so just
So
curious.
I've been very fortunate to get a donation of the posts.
Oh, cool. Yep.
And so it would just be a bit of concrete and some of that will be donated as well.
Yeah. And what kind of posts? So,
Oh, no, very solid
Yeah.
posts that nobody's going to be able to.
no, I'm not
move.
worried about them coming out.
Yeah.
I'm just worrying about what they, I'm just confirming what they look like, because we're spending, public money. I just want to make sure that we have ticked all those boxes and we know exactly what we're getting and what we're spending it on. Like we've got a very clear quote you've done, and I'm not criticising anything. You've done an awesome job, like Shane and the others have already pointed out. And I definitely am 100% supportive of this project. But I just want to be sure that we have got everything covered clearly and there's no hidden surprises, that we get all these signs done and then we find out that we have to pay because the posts that are being donated aren't actually going to be.
So I've talked to Brad about the post too and the most suitable one. So he's filled me in on the dimensions. So I've given that to the person who's donating them.
And they're happy with that? Okay, cool, because that wasn't in your information. Awesome, no, I'm happy with that. Shane?
So Jill, I understand that the eyesight, there used to be a heritage
Sorry, Shane.
trail.
Sorry, just not listening. Excuse me. But can we, okay, right. Now go ahead.
So I understand that there used to be a heritage trail document so that visitors could come to Te Awamutu and they actually follow a route and the signs are on that route. So the people that are interested in that sort of thing, and I believe it was reasonably successful, but other people may comment on that. So this 2-month period might be a good opportunity to let the eyesight know this is coming and we can start work on that as well.
I can actually speak to that, having worked at the eyesight and given out those heritage sign brochures, and we used to give out loads of them. Lots of people came in regularly when they were wanting to know things they could do in Te Awamutu and would take a heritage sign brochure and trot off around the signs and regularly came back to tell us which ones were either missing or someone had drawn on. But yeah, they were very popular. They were just an A4 size 3, because there's quite a few. So it used to be like an A4 size both sides with a little blurb about each sign and with a map on there as well where to go. Have you still got one? I was going to say, I think we've got one at home too. Yeah. So, but yeah, that would be a good idea.
But we could do an updated one, no trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so Jill, I'll let you move your motion.
Are we going to form a group?
Can't do that today. We can't make an official subcommittee today. That needs to come back to the next meeting. But what we can do actually though, do we want to do an official subcommittee for this? So we probably just need to get an idea, do we want to do that? And if we want to do that, it needs to come back to the next meeting to be officially formed.
Yeah, do we need to make it an official? Can we just
I don't know, it's
all
up to
agree
you
that
guys.
we're here to help? And
Yeah.
if Jill needs anyone's help, just yell out sort of thing. Are you comfortable with that, Jill? Just to make some things simple and
It was
quick.
just because Jill had asked for a subcommittee and a subcommittee is an official group. So.
Now, if people are willing just to help me and they've just been letting me know, that's fine.
Okay, right. Thank you, Dean.
So I just need
let's go back
to
to your
make an
motion.
amendment to the motion. If there's no more questions. That the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board accepts the quote from Slick Prints and allocates up to $2,000 plus GST for the purchase and installation and the changes and maintenance of new heritage signs, with any unspent money returned to uncommitted funds.
No, we don't want to return the money if you're carrying on with maintenance, so.
Was that in changes or was it in maintenance?
No, the change is, and that's, oh yeah.
Okay, well, let's just leave it. Well, I don't reckon there's enough. Yep. Yeah, no, I was just raising it. Okay, Jill, so you're moving that. Someone to second it? John, all in favour? Against? Carried. Cool. Congratulations, Jill.
Thank you.
We're all go.
I'll be in by the next meeting.
Okay, righto, the next item is our Treasury report for the period ended 28th of February 2026. And I'm not sure if there's anything, oh, sorry, my computer's gone to sleep. Has anyone got any discussion around the Treasury report or any questions? Because Joe's going to answer those for us.
There's no changes.
Or Debs. There's no changes to what?
To the Treasury report from last.
Oh, okay. There's no changes to the Treasury report, but has anyone got anything they want to raise? And Liam?
Just a question, because I'm new to this. So with things like what we just allocated, the $2,000, in terms of this report here, where does that money sort of show up? Like, where does it come from and out of these funds in here?
Do one of you lovely ladies want to explain that?
So through the chair, that will come out of the uncommitted funds. So the uncommitted funds are sitting there for you to allocate how you wish.
I'll just add to that. And then once it's been allocated to something, it'll pop up in the projects. That's the one I want. Yeah. So like you can see commitments for 25, 26 Project Battery, Christmas Parade. So it'll pop into there. All right. And you can see where it is then and how long it sits there for. Now, we do have a funding round coming up. Now, we can't make a decision on this tonight because it needs to be approved, but I would like people to, while we're talking about funding, is just have a think about an allocation of funding to the community board for community board projects that we possibly set aside before we actually do our discretionary funding allocation. And we'll need to approve that at a meeting, if we're putting, or can we do that prior to the start of our special meeting that we're having for the discretionary funding? Just want to check when it's best to do it.
And just referring that we can look at what you want.
Cool. Yeah,
You
no,
do have
thank you. But
$2,000.
yeah, I know that there's a little bit there, but we've got a couple of slightly bigger things. So if everybody can have a think about that, that would be great. So in the meantime, can I please have someone move that the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board receives a report of Nada Milne, Financial Accountant, titled Treasury Report for the period ended 28th of February 2026. Kane, Jill to second. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Kidoki, that moves us on to item 9, board members' reports from meetings attended on behalf of the community board. So we'll start off. Kane, you got anything? Councillors, have you got some updates from council meetings you have attended for us at all that's relevant?
Yeah, so the chair asked me to report to this committee with the help of Dean in terms of council things that may be of interest to this particular board. So I have done that, and I'm just going to go through my notes now. And I do ask that Dean, if I get anything incorrect or I've missed anything out, that he jumps in. So council meeting on the 25th, we're talking about Waikato water transition, and I'm just saying that that is going as per our schedule. It's a difficult, complex beast, but everything seems to be heading in the right direction. We also had a presentation from the Cambridge Town Hall Trust at that particular meeting about what they are doing, etc. I did a talk to a group called the Continue Education in Te Awamutu, and I talked basically about roles that I had in the community and the election and campaigning process, and then experience on council. I also went to a chamber meeting, and I took the deputy mayor to start to introduce her to some of the business community, and that was the chamber meeting that was at the Food Forest. We went to Hamilton Airport. We had a good look around Hamilton Airport because we're a shareholder of that organisation, and so that was quite interesting just to get an update of where we were at, what's happening with that business. Top line, basically, the Jetstar meant that they have a lot more people going through that airport. It's completely transformed that business in terms of profitability from that side. And also the other half of their business is in property, and they've started to move things along quite rapidly with that side of their business. So they're looking to be quite a good organisation in terms of performance. We went to a citizen ceremony at Awamutu, which was always nice to see. It's always amazing how many people from how many different parts of the world are coming to live in New Zealanders and become New Zealanders. So that's quite a nice thing to go to. We went to Parawera Marae for a pokai, and we went on the Sunday in the afternoon, and then we went again on the Monday. So a pokai is where the kingitanga, so the Maori Queen, came on the second day, and it's an opportunity for the maraes and the iwis from the surrounding areas to talk about the issues that they may have, so that they, as a total organisation, can start to work out on some solutions. So that was a great eye opener, and quite impressive how they're starting to how they're organising themselves. We had a meeting on the 11th, and we're talking about Cambridge Connections. So I think everyone's up to date with how Cambridge Connections is going. That's on schedule and heading in the right direction. And we also had Sally talking about the Prongia recovery, where we were at in terms of the recovery from those events that happened in Prongia a little time ago. Risk assurance meeting, just I think the interesting thing that came out of there, that a lot of the capital works that were scheduled to occur have been delayed for this financial year. A lot of it's to do with developers who no longer require those works. So that's actually quite good news in terms of allowing us to have a little bit of headroom in our debt, more than what we had anticipated. So that was a bit of good news. We had a strategic follow-through meeting with council, which was basically we did a Myers-Briggs analysis on each councillor and how we think and how we make decisions, etc. And then the follow-up meeting was just to go over that again, but also to work out how we would behave as a team of people, how we treat each other, what our values would be, etc. So there's going to document that's going to come through for that, and I think that document would be something that I'd like to see that this board look at and maybe adopt for our behaviour as well. Dean and I went to a Prongia pizza evening. It's just some of the people who were affected by the events in Prongia recently. We just had pizzas and a bit of a discussion, and it was quite nice just to meet the community. We met with the MP, Barbara, came and just had a quick meeting with new councillors, just so that we could focus on some of the things like legislation, local government legislation, that give her our view of where we thought we were at, and so that she was sort of armed with that and could represent us in a positive way. Yesterday we had a bus trip, and the bus trip was around the Cambridge area, And it was so that we could physically see the infrastructure and buildings, etc., that the council own. And it's always great to see something versus reading a report about it. And so we went to the Cambridge pools, the Cambridge Town Hall. We went to different water treatment plants. We saw a roundabout and their bike trails. And we went to the Leamington Park as well. And there's probably other things. It was quite a big day, but it was really good. And this morning we had a meeting with Forest, who are the suppliers of fibre connecting for households. And they were talking to us about some of the good work that they're doing. Dean might want to add on a little bit onto that. I also went to 2 meetings, and Jill will probably talk about this in a bit more detail, with the organisation that's starting in Te Awamutu called Keep Te Awamutu Beautiful. So they are looking at graffiti around the town and painting it out. Advantage, which is a company in Te Awamutu, have volunteered their staff for a day to help with that. The corrections have volunteered their staff to be part of that. The Boxing Academy have said that they would look after a certain part of Te Awamutu as well. So that's coming together pretty well. And that Keep Te Awamutu Beautiful organisation will morph into something more than just graffiti busters, but into, murals and community arts and the landscaping and all those sorts of things. So, and there should be a newspaper article this Thursday about that organisation. And I think it's important that in that article we'll mention that they have the strong support of the community board, so that we so that's my little short report. I'll get better over time.
That's great, Shane. Thank you. You guys certainly, and Dean, you've been pretty busy. Is there anything you wanted to add to it?
A couple of little things to add. Pokai, if you don't know, is a Kihikihi tradition, which I think they said has now been going for 141 years annually. And they go to all the marae in the Waikato Tainui area, the Kihikihi visits, and so that each marae gets to make their point. So they welcome the Queen, in this case, do their, the normal welcomes, have their kai, and then they get into the discussions where they get to talk about whatever it is they want to talk about and say what they want. Dale Marie, I think, did 8 days in a row of Pokai the week we went, but it was noted that it was really appreciated that councillors and some council staff attended the most local one to us. So it was good. Part of our trip yesterday was also to the new wastewater treatment plant in Cambridge, which is pretty impressive, isn't it, Shane? So they're in the stage now where they are basically testing systems. So they've got a whole lot of, they've got the old system still working, they've got the new system in place, they've got temporary pipes going all over the place, and they've filled it up with water just to make sure that that part of it's working out of the river, and they're adding in the truck collected waste from the airport to start introducing waste to make sure that's going to work. And then, Sally probably won't correct me, but and then the next stage is to start introducing the bugs, isn't it? So be pleased to know that it'll work really well, because the bugs are going to come from the Te Awamutu plant, so they'll obviously be good ones, and that'll start that process. The thing about the chorus presentation was good because they've got a community focus to try and increase the use of fibre, get more fibre into communities where fibre doesn't already exist. So obviously we're pretty good in Waipa in terms of our towns and our villages, but not all the rural communities have got it. So they're working on a plan for that. They talked about the fact that copper's going out. It'll go out fairly soon. Some people are concerned about that. I gave an example. My mum's going, oh, copper's going to go, I won't have a phone. She doesn't know it. She's still got a landline, but it's run on fibre now. I didn't tell her, I just did it, and it's cheaper. So she didn't want it because she didn't understand it, but it works. But the point that they also made is that people have the impression that copper works all the time, and that if we have any power outages or anything under the new system, everything's going to go out. But they pointed out even the copper system now doesn't work without power. So if we have events and the power goes off, we've got our cell phones, and that's about it. The copper doesn't work anymore without power because it's fed, via powered sort of feeders and things, as opposed to just having one line that goes from one person's house to another and you can just call them. But the good thing about the digital equity that they're talking about is there's a program where they've got a subsidy per household, which is a reasonable amount of $3,500. I hope that's public. And if you can get enough people in a group together, they can do a feasibility on that, and it might be that they can put fibre to a little group of houses in a rural community or a village that doesn't have it, and the $3,500 might cover it if everything's in their favour, or it might be they might be asked if they want to put some money in, and they would be saving on their rent, so it might be possible. And the even better thing is that the person in charge of digital equity for the whole of New Zealand is Natalie Lawson, and she lives in Te Awamutu. And the other lady that came and talked to us, who's in this field, she's just from Hamilton. And the other lady, she was from Carterton. So, some of their team is from all around New Zealand, but two of them are local and one's very local. So it's something that we talked about getting involved in as a community, help spread the word. They're trying to spread the word, but they're also trying to get more fibre out there so that we've got more resilience around the country, around fibre and connectivity. So yeah, think about that, because we're going to arrange some presentations, aren't we, Shane, and get them back. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Kane?
Just to follow up, just a comment. Shane, you mentioned that there's the damage out at Prongia. Just wanted to highlight that in rurally it hit, so it's a carver right across. So there was damage right through that way, right at my place in particular.
Yeah, true.
Just wanted to highlight it's not just Prongia.
Yeah.
Did they not have pizzas at Kihikihi? Oh, Kane.
We've actually had two other functions, I believe. Another one at Prongia and one last night at Whaipapa South. Yeah.
Oh, that's good that they're
we
getting
didn't
out
go to the
around.
Whaipapa South one. The ward councillors and the mayor and the deputy went. I think that's correct.
Oh, yeah. And actually, that's a good point. Kirsty just pointed out that we do have both Sally and Wayne will be presenting on the recovery phase at the end of our meeting. So, right. Jill, you've been a busy beaver, so we better let you before you bust.
So the first thing I did was Ange was away and asked me on her behalf to attend the citizenship celebration. And I'd never been to one before, so that was really interesting. We had about, like Shane and Dean were there, 90 citizens from Cambridge and Te Awamutu. So it was quite an honour. The citizens who came and their families were all in their Sunday best and just very honoured to be there. And it was a really, privilege for me to be there too. So I've also attended a meeting that me and Mike started up again, which we'd been doing about 3 years ago for the seniors in the community. And I've got involved in that now. We've had 3 meetings and got another one next week. And later in the year, probably in about October, there'll be an expo in Te Awamutu just to show the seniors in town what is happening. So that's all underway, and there's a good committee that the council started up with that. Also in February, me and Mike set me a challenge, and he said, I think it would be really good in Te Awamutu to have frisbee golf here. He said, I'm trying to do it in Cambridge. Maybe we can do it in Te Awamutu. So the Te Awamutu Lions are very keen to take this on board. And I've talked to the parks team here, and they've given us some sites to look at, and I've got some more sites to look at in the next few days. So yes, I'm taking that on board, whether we do it as a community thing, but I'm just at the moment just telling you what I've been doing. But the Lions were quite happy to take it on and look for sponsorship as well. I went and had a look at the the Kihikihi frisbee golf, which is an 18-hole one. We'd probably only have a 9-hole here. And Kihikihi is so popular that every Easter for the last 25 years, they hold a national frisbee golf tournament there. So for me, it was quite a new thing, but I didn't realise it had been going so long. And the Keep New Zealand Beautiful. So you might remember, some of you, that when Paula and Shane Walsh arrived back in Te Awamutu, they sat up here and said, gosh, we'd love this town to look a bit more beautiful and not so tired. So Paula now has started up the Keep New Zealand Beautiful, and I've been involved in that. And as Shane said, the start off was just, it's just been amazing. She's worked so hard to get everything donated, paint and brushes, and people to be able to get rid of the graffiti in town, and then later on murals. And I believe they'll be able to do things like the rubbish collections that we've been doing, because we didn't have Keep New Zealand Beautiful. And so they've got quite a few projects that they want to do. But the first one was just the graffiti one. So they've been working with businesses in town who have all agreed to be able to do that. So Paula's worked really hard to do that. Yeah, thank you.
Nice, thanks, Jill. We've been very busy. Liam, did you have anything from your end of the stick? John? Okay, all good. I just had one very quick update to pass on, and that was I received a email from Cubic to say that Diane Firth from Ngaruawahia Community Board will be our CBEC zone representative for this training. So that was all from me for this time. So if there's nothing further, we then move into item. We went 7, 12, 13, 14. So let's not worry about item numbers. The date of our next meeting, which will be on Tuesday, the 28th of April, 2026, and will be held at 6 p.m. So just quick clarification. Am I meant to do my karakia now?
No.
I do it after the workshop. Okay. So we'll close the meeting. Does anyone want to take just a very quick toilet break or anything before we start the workshop? Yes, please. Okay, let's just give us 5 minutes and we'll start at 7:05, so that we can just have a quick stretch and then get into our workshop. And the meeting closed. Oh, okay, all right. Well, if everybody's back, is it all right for us to start early, seeing as it's not stream? Right, if everybody's back, we might as well get started. So welcome Sally and Wayne. I was going to say Swain from these guys talking about chicane. So thank you for making yourselves available tonight and to update us on the recovery around the district. So I'll hand over to you.
Kia ora tātou, and thank you for your time this evening. So what we're here to do today is provide an update on recovery from the February 2026 severe weather event. So we're both talking in terms of, I'm here in terms of my capacity as local recovery manager, and I've got Wayne sitting beside me as the controller for the Western Waikato area as well. So essentially what we want to do is we want to walk through what we currently know, explain what the transition period means and where we're at with the recovery phase. So apologies to the two councillors that are around the table. They may have seen some of these slides, but we do have some updated graphics for you as well. So watch out for those. The intention is to really give you an understanding of how recovery is working following this event, what our areas of priorities are, and where governance in terms of their oversight has a real important role as well. Also identify risk and future decision makings that we need to make from this event. So for example, the photo that is in this slide is the Tatahi reservoir and the stream, and you can see the damage that is on the edge of the reservoir there. This photo was taken as the team were pumping the water out of the reservoir, so that is now completely empty. And that stream on site, Wayne and I were there last week, and essentially it's gone from maybe about 3 meters wide to about 20 to 30 meters wide. So it just shows the gravity of the water that came down. I'll try and highlight the photos as we go through, but you'll see some of those impacts as we do. So just in terms of the snapshot, it has been referred to as a 1 in 250 year flood event. We had State Highway was closed and a temporary bridge was opened on Friday just south of Parongia. Kokorin and Whatauri Road still have limited access for residents only, so we're now coming up to 6 weeks from the event for those communities to still have limited access. We've had a look at Baffin Street Bridge in terms of the impacts of that in Parongia. We know that water infrastructure was definitely impacted, and we've also had economic impact through businesses, local businesses in Parongia, rural impact for access, production and infrastructure damage, and our natural environment, as well as cultural site impacts. So across the two districts, they were wide-ranging impacts. These included impacts to homes, roads, bridges, rural operations, our water network, as I've mentioned, and access to services. At the peak of the response, we had over 133 displaced families or houses. We had 23 roads closed, 3 state highways impacted, waterways reformed, significant landslips, and multiple farms with limited access across the two districts. Impacts were resolved quickly, some of them through the response phase, while others are continuing to take some time and will be addressed through recovery. On this slide, this is an overview purely from a Waipa perspective, so haven't gone into Otorohanga District Council's view there. And I think as Kane mentioned earlier, we recognise that this impact came from the western side of our district all the way through Otorohanga, through the southern to the southeastern side, and also affected Taupo as well. So it was, definitely was through that southern part of the district, western to southern part of the district, but note that there were quite a few affected communities as part of that. The photo that is on the slide is the Kokorin Road up on the northern slopes of Parongia, and this was where a culvert blocked fairly quickly within the night, And this is the area after, I think it was about 4 weeks of draining that area. And this is what it looked like only a week or so ago. So from that perspective, you can see the amount of water that would have been in that space. So the role of recovery is to bring everybody, bring together the known impacts, identify actions to support our communities to recover back to what the new normal is. So that's our role in the Recovery Office. So I'll hand over to Wayne now and he'll give you a snapshot of the EOC.
Right. Well, good evening, board members. So in terms of the severe weather event, firstly, I just want to acknowledge the tragic loss of life of Brent Knowles in the Otahonga district due to the severe weather event on the Friday night of 13th of February. It's much sadness that occurred. I also want to acknowledge all those people who were affected and carry on indeed to be affected by this event. This severe weather event invoked state of emergency powers declared by Mayor Rodney Dow for Otahonga District and Mayor Mike Pettit for Waipawa District. Firstly by Otahonga District Council at 12:57 a.m. And then Waipawa at 3 p.m. on Saturday the 14th of February. The state of emergency period was a statutory period of 7 days. That state of emergency for both councils was extended for another 4 days. Notice of transition period, the recovery phase occurred on the 25th of March for 28 days for both councils, and Sally will talk a little bit about the extension of that transition period. The EOC operated from the Otahonga District Council offices. We have a joint CDM arrangement with Otahonga District Council and Waitomo District Council. As the slide indicates up there, the CDM response to the severe weather event was extensive. It involved the EOC operating 11 days, 6 nights, 3 at 24-hour rosters. CDM EOC support was provided by 12 different councils, as you see, involved 180 individual council staff. It's a huge number of people during the response event. I was one of 7 local controllers for the event, 5 of which were within the Western Waikato area, and the other 2 came from Hamilton and Waikato. Recovery was in the EOC throughout the response, so that was a really important part of the transition arrangement. Partners included to provide a coordinated response to manage the immediate impacts, restore essential services, support affected communities such as what Sally's been talking about, all of those up there, iwi authorities, Māori Wardens, MPI, FENS, police, New Zealand response teams from Auckland came down. They're volunteers. They came down to help out in the emergency to ensure people didn't lose their lives effectively in the floodwaters in Otahonga. National Emergency Management Agencies were there, Group CDM Office, Rural Support Trust. And of course, we also set up here Waipawa Infrastructural Coordinating Centre to deal with the infrastructural issues and the parks issues that we faced here in Waipawa. There were over 18 sit reps done, 13 action plans and many community messages that went out. We dealt with widespread flooding, slips, we had to get geotech work done, infrastructural damage, talk about that shortly. Sally's talked about the 133 displaced persons. We had isolated communities needing welfare support, particularly in the rural areas. We evacuated people at risk, such as, Sally just talked about the Corcoran Road issue, where the culvert blocked. That had created effectively a dam, threatened to blow out the culvert and the road, and that would have put lives at risk downstream. So we had evacuation of people in that area. We had a precautionary closure of Baffin Bridge on that Friday night because of just the amount of debris that was coming down Waipawa River. We had significant bridge washouts, road slips, Te Pāhu, Kakapuki area. It's quite interesting, it was just really an isolated part of our district. There was nothing on the Cambridge side in terms of the event. It was all Te Pāhu, Kakapuku area and down in Otahonga side of things. Downers did a fantastic job, our contractors, closing roads that Friday night during that event, keeping people safe, putting up the safety signage. And importantly, as Sally's alluded to, the Te Tahi water supply impacts for Porongia Township, they're really extensive, unprecedented. The water inlet supporting pipe infrastructure gone. The water reservoir was compromised, as Sally was indicating. It required draining. This all required to be managed as part of the response, including Parongia residents' urgent water conservation measures deployed to allow time for our waters engineers to find a TA water supply solution to the Parongia residents. Thanks to all our residents and our water engineers, we did not need to deploy contingency measures which involved water tankers, and that would have been not a nice place to be for our Parongia residents. Thankfully in Waipa there were no placarded buildings, but there were around 56 in Otaronga, which the town had floodwaters affecting residents and outlying communities. The focus is now on recovery, and importantly, we used the transition to recovery to retain emergency powers. So Sally has emergency powers to utilise, similar to a local controller, and it also allows us to undertake emergency actions without resource consent, so we can apply for retrospective resource consents if we need them with the regional council. So yeah, all in all, it was a really significant event, a big stand-up of the EOC, and thankfully a lot of widespread support from other councils helping out in that event. And I'm sure it has provided a lot of assistance to a lot of residents and communities that particularly needed that welfare support and that measure of safety. Thanks.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks for that overview. What I'll do now, and I need Zoe's help for these next ones, I've got some images that the Regional Council have provided us which show the difference in terms of aerial photography from January or pre the event through to post the event. And we might play them the videos a couple of times so that you can actually see what you're looking at. So we'll do the first one, and this is the stream that came down from Mangati Road to Ormsby Road, which took out the bridge on State Highway 39. So I'll hand over the driving to Zoe. So you can see there in terms of that goes from a dark green to a light brown. That is the extent of the water that flowed through what was a meandering stream or waterway. So you can see the differences there. Oh, thanks, Zoe. If I click you onto the next, I will do it once more. So then this is just an example here, south of Parongia. And you can see the yellow line as the outline of how far the water went on that tributary outside its banks. So that is relatively extensive. The reddish dots that you can see on the screen, those are the what have been mapped in terms of land instability or landslides that have occurred. These are photos that were quickly post the event. So as we've talked about or referred to, on the left is the culvert that was completely eroded around in Whatauri Road in Wharepapa South. So that happened overnight on the Friday. We heard last night from those residents. What is in the middle is the team that are working on the bridge at the Manguuka stream. So that is just in Parongia. And on the right, you can see in the middle of that photo is actually somebody standing on a boulder, and that's in the Parongia forestry block. So that's the forestry block that we own. And I understand that that stream that would have run through there would have been maybe 1 to 2 meters wide. You can see the width of that and the size of the rocks that have come down. This just shows another map of Regional Council that they've done of the land slides or land instability, and then the yellow is marking the areas where those water tributaries had expanded well outside their normal areas. So you can see that, yeah, quite clearly there. And in terms of what Kane was referring to, obviously there's significant around Parongia, but there's also further south that was impacting through to Aotearoa, towards Aotearoa, but also noting that this is to where they've got to. So there's more information being pulled together by them as well that they're greatly sharing with us. And this is another one this is the monga itself in terms of parongia. So you can see as Zoe's sliding that across, you can see the landslips that have happened on the monga. So what was native bush environments, you can now see, so it was all dark green. And when it comes back across, you can see the extent of some of those slips. And they're significant in terms of if you're driving towards Parongia, you can see those as you're driving. So you can see those landslides. So what we've talked about in terms of impact to our infrastructure has been through the native forestry and the rocks that have actually come down through the event. So a significant amount of water obviously fell on the monga that evening. Thanks, Zoe. Thank you for your help. So in terms of where we are at, so the transition to recovery that was signed as Wayne alluded to at 12 p.m. on the 25th of February. So essentially, as Wayne's already alluded to, this enables activities from the EOC to continue through to recovery, and that includes those statutory powers held by the controller to come to the recovery manager. And so those are really in place to manage ongoing risk, protect public safety, and support the works that we need to do in recovery. They can include things such as restricting access to unsafe areas. So we still have natural areas on Parongia, on Kakapuku, that are closed to the community. So those tracks are closed. It also allows us to direct or undertake works that are required in this phase, and we can manage any dangerous structures or places, so roading, those sort of things. It's also really important in a legal context and provides that operational bridge between response and recovery, but it does not define the full duration of recovery. So we can come out of that transition period at any time if we feel that we're set up and ready to go for that medium to long term recovery aspect. And yeah, as I've said, the transition notice or recovery can happen well after the transition notice. So recovery is different to response. It can be slower, very painfully slower at times, and it really requires a clear sequencing of work and coordination. Still requires us to be really strong with clear communication and ensure everyone is working together to achieve those same outcomes. So at the moment, as you can see, 28 days from the 12 p.m. on the 25th of February ends up being the 24th of March at 12 p.m, which is tomorrow. So we're just currently working with the Mayor around that and looking at the transition period and what we do next. So we'll be providing updates to you and the community tomorrow in terms of that space. So in terms of recovery, it is a different approach to how the EOC is set up. We're across 4 environments, such as community, the economic, the built or infrastructure environment, and the natural social environment. So our structure looks at the issues that are falling under each of these environments, and we pull together planning to look at the medium to long-term actions that are required to support what has happened within those environments. We have sector leads in terms of helping to lead that information, and we're also critically working with iwi, mana whenua, connection, communication, engagement, partnerships, and central government agencies. So we're here to help coordinate with our community, listen to them, understand what they're going through at the moment, seeing if we can connect them with people to help support them, whether it's central government agencies or not, and really help them to get back to what is the new normal from this event. So one of the key things that we are seeing out at the moment in terms of that community social space is the psychosocial impacts that have come from the event. And we're also noting at the end of this week, you would have seen that there is weather coming towards New Zealand. So very much keeping an eye on that. It's been very dry since the event. And, you know, there are always concerns when you've been through something like this, when you hear rain, that grows anxiety and concern. So how do we support the community in that space? In terms of the office, I've got 2 members of my recovery office here tonight. So I've got both Gina and Julie, and they have been instrumental in doing continued checks out in the community, understanding those that are affected by access to properties. What do they need? Do they need connection with any agencies to support them? Checking in on the Parongia businesses from that perspective as well. So we've had really positive feedback from our community around the connection with council, around our communications, and just being there to listen at the moment, which I'm sure that you're also in your communities hearing as well. So under these areas, we've talked about the rural sector. There were farms that were unable to have access during those initial days. They weren't able to get milk tankers in to take the milk off. So it's about supporting those businesses, but also the number of fences, the number of stock access ways. You know, rural support is a close partner of us that we're working together and understanding what their needs are from that perspective. Regional Council their priority has been clearing the waterways, initially around infrastructure damage. So if there is rain, that those waterways are clear, that debris doesn't damage infrastructure. But what you'll see if you drive south of Parongia at the moment, you'll see big piles of debris in paddocks on landowners. So they're working with those landowners around those debris. And we have learnt this week that there is a fire permit needed if people are burning those. So it's passing on that information from that perspective. And then the biggest area for us as council is obviously the impact on our infrastructure from road and waters, stormwater, our forestry, and also one of the things through the response phase is that we can do works under emergency powers and have to get retrospective consents. So we've got a time period to work to, and that's what we're working on at the moment in that space. And also to help support our community that we've put up there is a Mural Relief Fund. So if you're hearing of people who have been impacted, they can apply to that as well. So that's another opportunity of what is being supported here. So in terms of our risks at the moment is just the capacity constraints across all agencies to be able to respond to this, noting across the country, there's 75% of the country is currently in active recovery. And so that's all of the weather events that we've had across New Zealand. We're dependent on our partner agencies on what they're doing, what capacity they've got. And so there are other things that they might be starting to have priorities that might come above this. So how do we keep working together? We're also understanding the ongoing impacts on our infrastructure and the costs associated with that. And that's something critically that we're working across council to understand what the costs are and the funding pressures from this event. And also trying to very much meet our expectations of our community. So these are all things in the recovery office that we're understanding, learning, and then we'll have to feed back in terms of council decision makings of what they want to do with some of this infrastructure and what our response is. So some things that have happened, that previous photo, that is up in the Parongia Forestry block. So you can just see that there's areas up there where the water was, 3 times the height of me that came down through. There are trees stuck in trees from that perspective. So it's just, photos don't really do it justice of what happened on the ground. What's happened, so we've had some great events that the councillors stole my thunder on in terms of we've been out in the community from that perspective. We've been at the bridge opening that was south of Parongia by NZTA in terms of that temporary bridge. And that team out there, just in terms of the contractors that have been really supporting this so far, they had been working 7 days a week to get that bridge open and try and have that connectivity back for our communities. We've got the same with our contractors, doing the same with our roading networks. So we've been in paddocks, we've been in the middle of roads and out in our communities, connecting with them sharing their stories and what they're doing. And We were also able on Saturday morning to open a small section of the Parongia Mountain Bike Park. So that then gives the community back an area that they can actually ride in and walk and horse ride in that as well. So those are some of the successes we've had. And the photo on the top right there, that is the sludge pond, I think is what the technical term is, or it'll be my term tonight, up at the Te Tahi water above the reservoir. And so you can just see that the water just came straight down, straight across that. So yeah, it's quite impressive. So where are we as at a team? We're still in a hybrid model. We've still got some response happening where we're building up the recovery office. And we're trying to get our cadence and connection with iwi and Manawhenua more into the cadence from that perspective. We have to do a recovery action plan, so that's part of what we need to achieve. So we're in the process of pulling that together. We're also gathering those costs to enable further discussions, but also NEMA, who is the National Emergency Management Agency, they're pulling that information together to enable discussions with government and government agencies of what this looks like across the country. And so those are critical discussions that we want to be part of as well from a funding perspective. We're continuing to assess what our community needs in terms of just connection, just sharing these stories and how we work around weather events that might happen. And then we're also, tomorrow we'll be assessing that transition period. So if you're out in the community, you're hearing things, please send that intel to us. We have the Waipa recovery at waipardc.govt.nz email address set up. So really appreciate if you can feed that information through to us. We're happy to follow up with the community. And essentially, I quite like this photo. This is another photo up in Corcoran Road. And this was essentially, I think they had 5 or 6 pumps running at different times to drain that area. So it looks like a beautiful little spot, but yeah, further to the right, not as pretty. So yeah, so happy to take any questions.
Jill?
Thank you both for that. That's really informative, actually. Might seem quite a silly question, but you know, when people have had their houses damaged and they're covered under insurance, that's one thing. With the council, are you covered under insurance for anything, or is it the council that actually have to pay for all the work that has to be done?
So there are some aspects of our infrastructure that is covered by insurance. So that's part of what the finance team is helping us with at the moment and talking to our insurance brokers around what that looks like. But there are things as a council we don't insure as well. So it is a balance, and that's part of the detail that we're getting into. Because when we're talking about funding, there's also funding opportunities. So with New Zealand Transport Agency as an example, we already have a subsidised funding arrangement with them. So there is opportunities under emergency events to talk to them as well. So it's about working together with some of those existing relationships and then working with NEMA to understand what else could be available from this central government suite. So yep, so there will be a mixture of insurance, of already subsidised works to trying to find or council. So that's the mix that we're trying to understand.
No, thank you. And the other thing is that over this event, there were people in Parongia, Corcoran Road, Otorohanga, who were out of their homes, and it was quite hard for civil defence to find homes for them. So I guess they learned from that where they could be for next time. So I guess it's all a learning experience.
Most definitely, and I think every event we do, and you know, one of the things about for us, this is a learning in terms of being in a recovery phase as well. But I think yeah, every event that we have, there's always some learnings. And Wayne.
This is a very fast-moving event. Decisions had to be made really quickly, particularly relating to Corcoran Road. Police were tasked to do evacuations in the middle of the night. So finding people accommodation, you know, is the first thing that people wouldn't go to friends and family in the first instance. a lot of people ended up down Otaronga, yeah, because you're quite right. There was some difficulty in finding people to be accommodated, but in certain situations, you've just got to evacuate people for their safety and yeah, try to accommodate them best we can. And I know the welfare teams tried to connect as best we possibly could with people that were displaced and find the appropriate accommodation for them.
I'd just like to see the council recognise Mandy from ComSafe because she got thrown in the deep end. People would ring her, and it's no disrespect to anybody from council or anything, trying to organise something or try and find out what was happening was just unbelievable because it happened so fast. Just aside to that, 2004, the Otaronga Primary School was underwater, and I've worked on that when that was underwater. And another thing too, the road to Taupo from the Wapapapa Dam to Mangakino, there's 3 major slips on that road. 2 of them are controlled by traffic lights, and there's another one which is a single lane. And I've been down that road twice, on the 5th of March and the 2nd of March. And I tell you what, when I was coming home and you look and you see, where the hell's that piece gone? I cannot see how they're going to ever fix it. You know, that's going to be a single lane road for a long, long time, and those traffic lights are going to stay there because there's nothing to, because you just go straight down onto the lake below. Just unbelievable. And the damage, well, I've seen that because I've lived in opposite Waratah Piggeries. I had a wooden bridge that was across that river, and I've seen that come up and flood and have logs stuck against my bridge. I've seen that bridge at Waratah Piggeries. The water was that far from the bottom of the deck. That's going back 2000, in the 2000s. So, you know, we're lucky at times and then we're unlucky at times. But yeah, I must admit, Mandy from ComSafe, she did an amazing job. And as a ComSafe trustee, I appreciated what she's done, and she's put up a hell of a lot of effort and looked after people. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Dean?
Hi guys, thanks for that report. There was a bit of new stuff there, so I appreciate that. So on our infrastructure tour of the eastern side of the district yesterday, of course, we saw the only still operating water treatment plants in Waipa with Titahi damaged. So that probably made it clear, you know, that we're still in a very vulnerable state. Have you got any update on Titahi? Do we know what's going to happen there? Because you know, we only need one other plant to fail for some reason, and we're in deep doo-doos.
Yes, so no updates that I can offer, and Eva-Lisa did say that she would come today, but no, and that's something that we need to bring back in terms of that planning. That is the medium to long-term planning, so we will bring that, but no, sorry, no updates.
That also highlights why we've got to keep getting the message to people, don't we, about water, saving water, even if it looks like it's wet. We've got to save water.
Anyone else have any questions? No. Oh, look, thank you so much to both of you. As Jill said, it was very informative, and I hadn't had an opportunity to get out there, so seeing some of those photos, yeah, there's certainly some significant damage, all right. I had hoped to have had a column in the paper, but I managed to forget to send it, embarrassingly. But I just wanted to say I had reiterated in that column of respecting the danger signs and things, and just had asked for people to make sure they respect those and not pull them down for you. So I hope our little contribution helps a weenie, but when it does go in, which will be next week. So thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And best of luck with everything. Okay, so that brings us to our closing karakia, which is a karakia whakamutanga. Puratia te rangi Mariei, puratia te aroha, puratia te nākau pai, puratia nā wāwata. Kia kore e naro, haumie huie taikie. So hold fast to peace, hold fast to love, hold fast to sincerity, hold fast to our hopes. May these things never be lost. Joined in unity, it